Hey, people. I'm going to start this out with the difference between a coyote and a jackal. I said a couple of movies ago that I believe that the writers of the Bible were American sailors, and I'm going to show you some proofs of it here. And it comes from these ancient Noah people, and their language was called the Noatl.
Nahuatl.
A coyote is a North American trans dog, and he fills the same niche as the golden jackal does. But the only place you find this coyote is in North America. They'll say that this split happened somewhere about 500,000 years ago from the African dog to the American dog. So the indigenous people, they use the coyote as the trickster anytime they start a story with now coyote. It meant the trickster. You can see him here with the feather in his hat, meaning corruptible. I can be corrupted. And the word's used today for a smuggler, a human trafficker. And he introduces work, suffering, and death. I promise you I can get you a job. Let me smuggle you over the border. In the Zuni lore, that's the Hebrew word for the whores. He brought winter into the world by stealing light from the Kachinas. And so the coyote, he takes the girl out to eat, and he tells her amusing stories and keeps her smiling. Because behind the two-way mirror, all the jackals are bidden. And when dinner's finished and his check comes there, it's not what you're thinking. It's not his bill. It's how much the highest bidder was willing to pay for his date. He's slipping out of the restaurant without her. He's going to tell her, "You got something on your face there." And she's going to go to the ladies' room, where she'll be swiped up through the back door. Coyotes are depicted as cowardly and untrustworthy animal. They're smuggling. They use same as today. They use tunnels and put their cash in holes and caves. In this ancient Noatl language, the hoochie coyote is the old coyote. The hoochie, the same as the Hebrew hoochie. And was old, and hoochie. And hoochie coyote, the old coyote. And was old Sarah, the hoochie Sarah. So the coyote is the one that's bringing dinner, and the jackal is the one that's eating dinner. That's your Hebrew word to and ate in huakol, the jackal. So I seen this pattern while I was reading in Job 3, and it's the coyote, and you see it come up mostly in Job here. This oat comes up with several other words in front of it, but when you get to Job, it always following the coyote. The coyote. Job 4, Job 6, the coyote. The coyote. Job 8, the coyote. And 8, the coyote. And 13, coyote. 14, coyote. And then in 16 comes the oat, and you won't see the coyote in Job again after that. And so that's a big clue when the last spelling is changed. And one of the first time it comes up like this was the birth of Reuben, the first son. And my affliction surely now will love my husband. And this is actually a story of the ebony coyote, the black coyote. But where I caught it here was in this Job 3:13. For now I would have lain still in a coyote's cavity. You're in a coyote hole, a foxhole. You're laying still because there's no room to move around. And the coyote's cavity was quintessentious. And the coyote's cavity was perfect for you, was quintessentious, was perfect for yous, in which lie. And so it's not talking about a coyote here, it's talking about a snake, and a perfect place for that snake is in the coyote's cavity. You see the calf, this is where your origin of the word cave come from. everything having to do with a place to sleep, a shack. And so in the coyote's cavity was quintessentias, in which lie was a perfect place for you to lie. For now I would have lain still, and would have been quiet, and would have been asleep, then would have been at rest I, in which lie would have been at rest I. And you can see, that Santa Claus here, would have been asleep. Santa, the sleeping clause, he only comes when you're sleeping. Would have been asleep, oh Santa. And so while I was studying this book of Job, I found that there's one Bible in the Septuagint, and it has an extra paragraph at the last in 42. You go here to the multi on the last line of Job 42:17, and you see it's just, and so Job died an old man and full of years. In all of the Bibles except in the Septuagint, and it has all this added on here, which looks to be like part of the Mason's handbook. It wasn't put in any other Bibles. So I'm going to get back to this book of Job, and mainly because this word Satan, about 80% of the time this word comes up. It comes up in the book of Job, in Job 1 and 2, and then comes up a couple times in Zechariah. And you see in this spelling with the L, it's an adversary. And I'm going to show y'all that this is talking about the woman. The Satan is the woman. But I got sidetracked while I was studying words, so I'm going to backtrack to where I was. When I saw this, I seen that I had to stop and make a movie. But this I overthrew of you as overthrew is an effective come. Effective come. Effect income. Come effect. And so that means, and the medicine that I took, has come effect. The effective. And so what it's talking about is everything before this is telling you how to do this, and then what comes of that, and what other 10 steps, and what has come. The effective income is come effect. And it's going to tell you what effect it has come. And come effect all him at Sodom. Sodom is nowadays known as any unnatural sex act, but back in the day it meant up the ass, Sodom. And effective come effect all him at Sodom. What amora? Amora is worldwide word for love, and it comes from more. If you're doing it right, that's what she says. More. And you'll find it in every Mediterranean language. Amor means love. And effective come effect all him at Sodom up the ass. What more? What loves? And what who? And who being spelt with a hue, H-I-W, meaning a color, a shade. And what shade? Code. A firebrand is the code you put on your cows. The firebrand, like a firebrand. And what the hue? Codum excel, out front. From serp. From the serp, you take the sap out of the tree and you cook it down to make your syrup. And it's also to extract all the valuables from a people, to serp. And from excel, from serp. Will as bottom, you have returned. Come back to the bottom. You see that for the word 7 in the Greek was the bottom count. And will as bottom, and had in you. And will as bottom had in you. And so the majority of the Bible is about date rape drugs. They wrote this King James story because all the con meaning the priest, were embarrassed for the people to know what they were actually reading about. But it was the effective come come effect. And the drug worked. And all him at Sodom, what amor, what love. There is no G in amor. In amor, what who could excel. What who could excel. And so a code, like a firebrand, a code. A goad is like a firebrand. And you'll see when they were riding elephants, this is the tool they would use to make the elephant go. And this is the symbol held in the Lord's right hand, used to remove obstacles from Dharma's path. Like a firebrand, the goad plucked. And what love, what who could excel to get things out of your way, like a firebrand plucked. And to get things, obstacles out of your way from serpent in order to take. Wills the bottom had in 'em you. And you'll see this phrase continues through here. And will as bottom had in 'em you. You see here in 5 is roll the name adding you, adding the name to the roll. And then 6 is the will is bottom adding you. And then 8 is the will is bottom adding you. And 9 will is bottom adding you. And 10 will is bottom adding you. And 11. And that's how I figure out how to read this language. I look for patterns like that. And then if you can figure out one of the short lines before the pattern, then it helps to figure out what all the other lines mean. But the greatest help is that these ancient people wrote in English, and something is defective, it's no good. And so if it's good, it's effective. Ooh, that was good. Effective come. It come the effect. In fact, like factory, fact is the ancient Latin for to build, to make is the fact. And the effect is the thing made. And the effect of come. The thing made and come effect, come made. And all him at Sodom, what amor, what who godum excel, what could excel to get the obstacles out of the way from serp and from taking will his bottom had in 'em you. So this come a picked or come effect, it comes up all with overthrew God Sodom, and come a picked all him at Sodom, come a picked all him at Sodom, and then it's come a fixed my love, and then again come a fixed all him at Sodom. And so the first time it comes up, is all the grass, the claw is all in O's in. The close in is all the grass. And the close in come a fixed mine, M-U, moo, mine love. And then next time is the only time it doesn't come with Sodom here. But you see it comes with your cities burnt with fire, your land. And that's to serp what? To take out what? To serp what as admits them. To get a confession out of them, admits them, set them on fire. To serp what as admits them. But it's also the way to get the people out of the land. And what admits them, the linge dickum. And that gave me a better idea what that means. Is that the dickum is to control. Control your tongue, your ling. So when you're in the presence of the king, you ling dickum. Control your tongue. And you see how it rhymes here, that admitsum ling dickums. Zarime climb, at whose Sammy come effect Zaram. And so this is the TZR, the czar, and overthrown by strangers is when a czar comes and takes over, the czarum. So it always has to do with overthrow, but different ways. And Sammy, this is top secret. I gotta find it in the story to show you what it means. It's just part of a word, but it's the same place that Samuel comes from. That they say is blind. They don't understand why. And then in 13, so Isaiah 13, is the Chaldeans overthrew God, Sodom. And so the Chaldeans, that's plainly in the Greek, it's calendars, the Chaldeon. And so Cumma picked Sodom, me love. That's how to overthrow the nation. That's what happened to Egypt. Everybody, all the gods became queer. And I overthrew some of you, and to a pictum, how they're pictured, and to a pictive come effect, with a picture they see come effect, or come effect of what come the pict. However you draw it, that's how it happens. I overthrew some of you as overthrew. All him at Sodom. And you see how that's spelled different here, though. It's the what instead of mooey, as you would moo, my love. But here it's at Sodom what love. It's Sodom what amor. So, that's how they overthrow, the effect of come a pict of all of them at Sodom. Hey, everybody in Hollywood's doing it, and all at Sodom. What 'em love, what hue, what the color code, what the color code 'em excel. Will 'em excel 'em serp with his bottom, Adam on you. And so when you get down to this S, you go back up and you read this in the other directional markings. You go back up to wherever the last mark was, which is these last two lines, and you read it with the markings, and it gives you more idea. Pictive come effectum, they yell at 'em. This is these A words are reading backwards, and this one reads backwards and forwards. And come effectum, yell at 'em. And distum, DSDM, the distum what. And distum what her and mom, MOM, what her mama. And done talked about her mama. And distum what her mom, a root, REUT, the root hue. To root, your mama does the big black boys, the root who. And godum excellum. And serp, to extract, and will omit backwards, omit in a Sabbat, Sabbat, the Sabbath, the Saturday, and the Sabbatomati, and it's the bottom ad, and then in names, NAME, in the name, the name who they have. Everybody's always trying to get your name to get power over you. And the name says Yahweh. And if you go up to the top, you get a better idea. And if you just read what they put here, it's all wrong, but it'll make better sense of the word. Here, word, this, you cows of Bashan. The fruit of Bashan. Who on the mountain some run the whole skedaddlum. Some run the old skedaddle of Sumerian who oppress the poor. No, it's inner. B is inner. Some run the old skedaddle. And the O, is the and O. And that same word for Greek God. And it's the hose. And the hose put. And you can see the squa in there. That's where your word for waters come from. Squat, a squaw, the feminine. They're running the old skedaddle on the girls. And some of the debris, the debris are all the little pieces left over after the storm. And some of the debris of fur, and she called his name as to a fur what, and a fur what the bashin, a servers run the old skedaddlum, the rexy what, erex he what, and a rexy what, a vive, to survive, the rex, the drugs to make what, to crush, and avive, the way he survives, aviving me, mart, the Kmart, the drugs would crush, aviving me a mart. I survive, I run the store, a mart, lading them, the ship's list, what's on the boat, lading, whatever you loaded is on the lading bill, and loading them, avise, when set. Lading them avise what's when set, is how much, and filling them with advice in what's set, what the dial's set at, how much. So it's talking about Mercury here, the god of medicine. So back in my pimping days, I was sitting up in the bar one day after work, and I thought I'd amuse him a little bit with a story. And so I told him, I went and seen my doctor yesterday, and I told him all about all my problems, and he gave me the perfect cure. And he said, this will cure all your problems. And I said, he gave me this little blue pill, and everybody jumped up and said, oh, you got Viagra. And I laughed, and I said, no. I said, no, he gave me a Valium. He said, just crush it up and put it in a drink. It'll cure all your problems. So at that time, my doctor wasn't licensed. He was a drug dealer, but I get a lot better, more honest information out of him. And so this is the word that I was looking for when I run into this, in the Kodamic cell, and snatched and plucked out. Because only come up one other time was in Zechariah. And you see it again with the firebrand, except it's missing the G or the K before it. But this gives a real good idea of what Jerusalem actually means. And we look up at the top, and they call this clean garments for Joshua the high priest. And the high priest is the same word as the Kani Koto, the same as the indigenous Americans. The Kukulkan, the cycle, and Khan, the control, Kukulkan, is another name for a Kutsi Koto. The Kutsi Koto is, and the Koto is the serpent, the feathered serpent. The priest high is the feathered serpent. Kukulkan, the plume serpent is what they'll call that. And they'll say this is another word for the quasi-kotal. And this is the kotal, is the serpent. And the quetzal, they'll say, is the feathers. And you'll find a couple words where this kotal would be they'll say it means a serpent, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't mean the serpent. I'm pretty sure it's a quality of the serpent. And the quetzal, in the quintessential, it's and fits the serpent in the perfect serpent. So I never believed none of their interpretation. I went and talked to my south of the border friends, and they said, no, you don't find that word for serpent anywhere. But the Khan is the guy who's directing the boat. The officer on the bridge that's telling the man who's steering and telling the man who's operating the engines. He tells them what to do, And he's directing the boat. He's not the captain. The captain told him where he wanted to go, and he's up there directing the crew in order to get the ship to go to that place. He's got the Khan. He's in control. And who reign? Who's on top? Who reign at the juice of? Jews, Jews, means the power, the juice. And who reign at juice of the Khan? The Khan Ikoto. And so we'll just go with serpent there, but remember it means the qualities of the serpent. And so you see it like this often, the quality of the serpent is he eats his tail. The serpent represents Mercury, the cure. And this would be the Lord of Myrrh. Myrrh, M-R, symbol for Virgo, and the Curie, the Lord. And so this would be Ketu. This would be Rahu, is Jova, Jupiter, and Rahu, the North Node, and Ketu, Mercury. And so these are the only two that you'll find covering the four winds. The North Node, the South Node, and the East is back to Jova again. And Mercury will be covering the West. There's only two lords to cover the four directions. And so the two Bibles are opposite. When you see the Curie as the Lord in the Greek and the angel of the Lord, Curie, you find it as Jehovah, Malak, the angel of Jehovah in Hebrew. The difference in the Greek and the Hebrew Bible are the difference between day and night. They're opposites. So back in the day, all the doctors, all the medicine men, the first thing they had to do was learn astrology. It was all about the calendar, the call the day on, and that was the evil. And it's a proven fact, that men have been getting dumber ever since this time, since they took the language away. We can't even make it to the moon. We keep getting dumber all the time. Three rednecks in a pickup truck went to the moon 60 years ago, and we keep getting dumber. We can't make it back. And so as I read this, I'm not real sure if it was time travelers, if they was looking into the future, or it's all happened before and was written and going around the cycle again. But this get pretty long. I'm going to cut this off here, and I'll get back to where I left off and start working back toward job. Good day.